Football and other F words. And I'm your host, Zach Lyons. You can follow me on Twitter at the Zach Lyons. You can also listen to me talk to the Hitman, Blaine Bishop, Titans legend on Cover 2, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, God's time. If you live in the Eastern Time, you're an abomination. If you live in the Pacific Time, hey, guess what? You're also an abomination. Is there Mountain West? Who gives a shit? I don't know. Because you know what? Right now, it's 7:35 on a Thursday.
It's the best time.
It's the best time right here.
Time.
The juice is on the loose here in the Bone Zone, here on 105.
Jesus.
No, it's a Bones Fossil joke.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's legal to say.
Let fossil bone.
Yeah, let fossil bone. Though I have not brought that onto air. So
No.
this is, let Rand cook. Let John Bones Fossil bone. What do you think, Jackson? Can we get it? Can we get that on air?
I'm not on the radio. On here.
Yeah.
I meant the juice is loose is where I was kind of.
Oh. Well, I mean, we're just talking about, the juice is loose. Not OJ.
Yeah.
Alcohol.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Speaking of, let's just throw this out there. I've heard that, Sun Cruiser is looking for, maybe a little spot. Sun
Who?
Cruiser, vodka, iced tea.
Damn, that sounds good right now.
It does sound good. Man, if only Sun Cruiser had landed right here, right now.
Don't see him.
Could put it right here. Look, we're on video, so we could put it right there, right there. We could be drinking it live. I mean, just
that
saying
show
Sun
gets us
Cruiser.
taken off the air within a week.
No. I mean, like been drinking since 3:30
Man, good for you. On a what day is it? Thursday?
on a Thursday.
On a
I took my time.
Thursday. Thursday.
I
Thursday.
gotta, pace myself.
Well, we're going to talk about this team, and it's going to sober everybody
Yeah.
up real quick.
Well, that's true. But, I mean, we don't really have to, enter the bone zone, the John Fassel bone zone here.
No.
Because, I mean, like, it's a punter.
Yeah.
Even though my dad called me at of course, I'm joined by Stoney Keeley across the way. I should
That's
probably
me.
introduce you. I'm sorry.
It's good. My name's on the feed.
Volume 2 of your poetry
Working on it.
series is coming out. I'm writing the forward.
You are,
I
yeah.
have not decided if I'm going to do what Sober's Rooster did,
Yeah.
where she wrote
It was a sentence.
is a small sentence.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very wordy guy. I would like to get 10 pages out there. Can I get 10 pages out there just
I
talking
told
about you?
Like, there's no limits on it. That's
What if I also have Jackson ghostwrite?
I would love that. Jackson can write the forward for my
What
next
if he
book.
does the outro? What's the outro called?
The epilogue?
Is the epilogue. Jackson writes the epilogue
Mm-hmm.
to your poetry book.
That would save me from having to write it and just say the same shit that I said in volume 1.
There you go.
Thanks, Jackson.
We solved it.
Appreciate your work.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. Oh, boy.
Free agency.
Free agency, bud.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's Cam Ward, right?
Well, it's so obvious that it's making me think something's up, something's off.
But the NFL is a lot more simple than we want to give it credit for.
We've talked about that, and I think that is my poetry, my fiction, my storytelling mind coming to the forefront of my brain. It's like, this can't be this easy. It can't be this simple. So it's tingling my spidey sense.
But keep it simple, stupid, Stoney.
Yeah. No, I know you're right.
That's
but there's that part of me that's like,
Stoney.
it's like, is this True Detective? Are we going to get a big swerve at the end?
Is this an M. Night Shyamalan?
Is this M. Night Shyamalan? I tell you, it could be as scary.
It's
as,
probably going to end up more like a M. Night Shyamalan ding dong
yeah.
than it is going to be M. Night Shyamalan.
But I do, to answer your question seriously, yes, it definitely feels like all signs are pointing to Cam Ward right now.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about today because everybody's like, oh, we're building this offensive line. Look at this offensive line for this young rookie quarterback, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, it's the quarterback moves that should tell you.
Yeah.
Because it didn't matter if God himself came down from the heavens and said, hey, I'm playing quarterback. If he didn't have an offensive line, I don't know if God could even play quarterback at that point.
Sure.
They
Fair
were
enough.
building an offensive line no matter who was quarterback. If they stupidly believed in Will Levis, if they wanted to bring back Mason Rudolph, if they wanted to sign Sam Darnold, if they wanted to trade for Geno Smith, it didn't fucking matter.
No.
That offensive line had to be built.
It's not like they were going to be like, we got Sam Darnold. He's going to solve our offensive line problem.
Yeah.
We're
like,
good.
I mean, you had to do it.
Yeah.
You had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my thing. It's the lack of quarterback interest that matters, right?
Yeah.
We saw one report that Zach Wilson, Mac Jones was high on their list, and we saw two reports that Mac Jones was not even in any consideration.
Yeah.
We've heard that the Denver quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks from last year, were in. The Titans were interested. Maybe it was just one of them that got signed very early. We'll see. But that's what we heard. They both signed elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
All the Aaron Rodgers, all the Russell Wilson, all the everything else was just pretty much debunked, right?
Yeah. Well, the dominoes have fallen.
Yeah. So it's kind of just saying that the ball's on them, the cojones on them to actually just roll out Brandon Allen and Will Levis
Yeah.
would be fucking phenomenal. Like
That.
at that point, you would have to look at everybody like, are we the insane ones or is this small group the insane ones? Because at that point, it'd be so stupid. So it has to be Cam Ward.
Unless you go with a Jackson Dart or a Quinn Ewers at 35. You take Abdul Carter, and then you go top of the second.
But you got to sign Jameis Winston at that point. So you got Jameis Winston, Will Levis, Cam Ward.
And Brandon Allen.
It keeps you up at night.
Yeah. I was just thinking
What
about
keeps you
that.
up more, that or Jalen Travis?
I've been sleeping easy on Jalen Travis ever since
Yeah.
the combine. He posted that like +9 RAS. I was like, okay, we're good. We're putting him on the hidden gems list, and we're going to keep this thing rolling. But
Eddie says, I'm still holding out like 5% hope it's Brandon Allen season. He just wants the worst case scenario.
yeah, I mean, listen, that would be sick. Can you imagine talking about this team for an entire season of Brandon Allen?
Brandon Allen drafted in 2016.
Yeah.
2016.
I didn't even remember who he was.
Arkansas.
Yeah.
I knew he's an Arkansas quarterback because Brandon Allen is pretty much an Arkansas name. Like,
You know
I'm sure
those-
there's like 15. I don't know the Arkansas football roster,
Yeah.
but I would venture to say there's probably 15 Brandon Allens on there.
Fabled quarterback institution, Arkansas.
Yeah. You know, what was the quarterback that Jacksonville drafted that they tried to turn into a wide receiver? What was that guy's name?
Was it Matt Jones?
It was Matt Jones. 'Cause I kept thinking Mac Jones, and is Matt Jones.
Matt Jones, yeah.
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 What a terrible school.
Well, they
What did they even do well there?
Hey, they got some running backs. They got some offensive linemen.
Okay, name me the 5 best running backs.
Darren McFadden.
Terrible.
Well, he was good in college.
It was fine. But like we were talking pros. What do they do in the pros? Frank Ragnow.
Alex Collins.
Yeah. You're a Bo Limmer guy, so we'll give him half a point for Bo Limmer. Frank Ragnow.
Wasn't Sebastian Tretola an Arkansas Razorback?
Well, he was terrible. Didn't he get into a bar fight with Corey Davis because
Yeah,
they
that
drafted A.J. Brown or something?
Yeah, I don't know what the I don't know the official story on that incident, what that was, but that was the rumor.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
Sebastian Tretola has no reach. Like, it doesn't matter how big you are. If you don't got reach in a street fight, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah. Traylon Burks. who
Hell yeah.
Should be a running back.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Traylon Burks. He should just, retire.
I hope he's not
So,
listening.
so it does just now say Burks.
Mm.
It took a while for us to actually land on Burks. Doesn't that say a lot about Traylon Burks?
I
We
listed
fucking forgot about
Sebastian
it.
Tretola before I got to Traylon Burks.
You know what play lives in my head forever?
What's that?
What's that?
It is the stupid, like, just the dumbest shit I've ever seen against the Jags week 18, 2022, his rookie year. We tried to throw the fucking ball across the field.
Was he? I thought he had like a concussion then, or was he healthy? I don't even remember
know.
that play. My thing was to piggy off this. The worst play for me was like anytime they try to like do an end around that year was like utter fucking disaster. Malik Willis, Traylon Burks, Chigakonkwo, they all fucking fumbled.
Yeah.
Did y'all not practice this play?
Arkansas football, man.
Ugh.
Felix Jones is who I was trying to think of on the tip of my tongue.
Oh, no.
What?
No, it wasn't. Tajay Sharp was not involved in the fight with Corey Davis.
No, I think it was Tajay Sharp.
Oh,
was-
Tajay Sharp got in the fight
Yeah.
because Corey Davis got drafted.
Yeah, that's what it was. And Sebastian Tretola was there.
So, for my old school F words listeners, I just want to bring this up one more time. Back in heading into 2017, because that's when 2018, when Matt LaFleur became
Offensive
the
coordinator.
offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
This is when it was me, it was Mike Herndon, it was his brother Keith, Internet Keith Herndon.
Yeah.
You should also check out his local band called Glamper. It was also my brother-in-law, DJ EJ. And then it was also Mr. Lebowski.
Yeah.
And we did a trial.
Mm-hmm.
We took it to trial. And my stance was at the end of the 2018 season, because of the offensive system that he was coming from, Matt LaFleur, that Tajay Sharp would have more snaps than Taywan Taylor.
Oh, boy.
And I got fucking dragged. We had Law and Order music and everything. It was a full on court.
Yeah.
So back in the day, full on court. I was ruled guilty and I was ruled with a loss.
Damn.
You know who won in the end?
You did.
Of course I did, because I
Yeah.
always win.
Yeah.
I mean, he fucking blew him away in snaps. You know
Yeah.
why? Because Taywan Taylor sucked.
Yeah. I mean, oh, boy. What a dark time. We're talking about
I know.
Tajay Sharp and Taywan Taylor. But, yeah, how many of those guys have been on the Tennessee Titans throughout the years where it's like,
Still John Robinson picks, by the way, that
Yeah,
we're all talking
yeah.
about. We're all talking about John
Yeah.
Robinson picks.
there's always
Because
a
everybody's like,
guy.
oh, well, look at Christian Fulton now getting a 2-year, $20 million contract. Well, okay, so he gets one more, maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think was he even that good for the Chargers this past year?
he was all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just think it's funny that it feels like an inevitable thing with this franchise. Every year there's going to be that receiver that we all just fall in love with when we damn well shouldn't.
Could that receiver be Bryce Oliver?
It's Bryce Oliver's time to take the mantle. I don't know. I kind of feel like
Mason Kinsey's still under contract, so I mean, like, that kind of feels like the guy.
I kind of feel like
He's got the edge because he is white, and people love white wide
that's true.
receivers.
That's true. Yeah. So
Especially shitty white wide receivers. Tennessee loves some shitty white wide receivers. Especially, we even had a segment called on Old School Football and Other F Words called Mike's White Wide Receiver Corner. Because he would fall in love with these white wide receivers.
yeah.
They just happen to be white.
I'm curious because I think Bryce Oliver. I do.
Listen, the chat right now is just naming dog water Titans draft picks.
Oh, I love
it. Started
that.
with Andy Galick, then it's gone to Kendall Wright, then Racy McMath, and now Joe Blacko said DEI in the wide receiver room. Okay.
right,
We got to
all right.
get back on track. We got to get back on
All
track.
right. All right.
We could name shitty draft picks all night for Tennessee Titans because there's literally probably 1,000 of them at this point.
It's the meme, right? Like
Yeah.
dudes will be happy to just sit around in a room and name old football players.
Oh man. What was Patasi?
Jeremiah Poutasi?
Jeremiah Poutasi. I
Yeah.
really thought that guy was going to be
Yeah.
something.
Byron Ely,
Ooh, that's a good one.
Paul Williams.
Paul Williams is a good one.
Yeah.
Do you remember Brady Breeze is one that just gets me every time because
He's so
there's no
funny.
way that's
Yeah.
not a porn name.
It's 100% a porn name. It's got to be.
Someone in the family's doing porn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's mom, dad, uncle, grandfather,
Maybe it's all of
grandmother.
them.
Could be an old family whore name that's been passed down from generation to
Listen,
generation.
people are into that.
Yeah, I'm
That
just
kinda
saying,
stuff.
like, hey, listen, I see someone put Gerald McCrath on here. You put some respect on Gerald McCrath's name. There is never, I've met many football players from that era, like Rennie Curran was another
man,
one.
I forgot about Rennie
So,
Curran.
like,
Yeah.
they would all come down to the dealership and buy cars. So I've been privileged enough to meet a lot of these guys. Joe McGrath is the fucking best.
Really?
He really is. Him and Colin McCarthy.
I love
Were
both of those
great.
guys, man.
Great.
That like early
They're
2010s
not great
era.
football players, but like great people to just hang out with. And I know
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about, but like, yeah.
Like-
there's some people say I still believe in Tyrone Calico in the chat.
Man,
MTSU product.
go Blue Raiders, baby. Harvard
There
of
we
the
go.
South.
Cole McDonald revenge season. Let's ride.
I loved Cole McDonald.
Yeah.
That was such a I laughed so hard when they drafted him. It's like it was the LeBron meme. I can't
All right.
believe this is real
Myron
life.
Roll's a good one. Super smart, super nice.
Rhodes
Lavelle
Scholar.
Hawkins is
Lavelle
really.
Hawkins. Yeah.
He left his playbook at the dealership.
No way, for
Yeah,
real?
for real.
Damn. Did you flip through it? Did you get to look
Yeah,
at it?
I'll look through it.
Oh, man.
You know I did.
Yeah. I'm not sure what 07 he was a rookie, so would that have been like a Norm Chow playbook?
Ooh, yeah, I think so. Right? No.
I can't remember.
Bishop Sankey. Okay. We could do this
Yeah.
all night. Let's talk about Dan Moore.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
He's getting paid at minimum $50 million over 2 years.
Yeah.
And everything out of Pittsburgh, the people that cover him on a weekly basis,
Mm-hmm.
that watch every snap, that watch all the plays, that break them down. Because we had a great conversation you can go see on the 105 The Zone YouTube page, which I'm going to retweet tomorrow. We had a great conversation with Nick Faribault.
Yeah.
And he's been covering the Steelers for a while, but he's also specialized. He's kind of like you. He's like he's been doing it like longer, I think, a little bit than you, but
Mm-hmm.
he's like the offensive line version of you. I mean,
Okay.
or I guess the Steelers version. And he said that the first 3 years he was consistently probably a below average guy, and at his best, he's an average guy.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make all the arguments in the chat that you want. Like, oh, well, you got to overpay. You got to do this. You got to do that. At the end of the day, they have tried to replace him for the last 2 drafts.
Mm-hmm.
They failed with Broderick Jones in their evaluation of Broderick Jones. Just because they said that Broderick Jones is not a good left tackle does not make Dan Moore a good left tackle.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then Troy Fontenot was drafted.
Mm-hmm.
And they, with the intention to play him at left tackle, but because Broderick Jones was so bad, they put him over at right tackle because they were looking at the best 5.
I thought he got hurt too.
Well, he eventually got hurt, so that's why Broderick Jones came back in.
Gotcha.
What's good about this for the Steelers is that Broderick Jones improved in the second half of the season, while Dan Moore didn't. He actually regressed.
Yeah.
And now Troy can come in and play left tackle when he is healthy this offseason. When we say constantly that no good tackles hit free agency, we can't just turn around and say, well, a good tackle hit free agency and the Tennessee Titans were very lucky and didn't overpay to get him.
Like the Titans were the one that
Yeah.
broke the streak.
Yeah.
They got the franchise
Because
left
you can
tackle.
say that, like, well, the Chiefs, were in on Dan Moore.
Yeah.
Well, they ended up signing Jalen Moore at $5 million per less and 2 years less, and you signed Dan Moore. So how much were they really on Dan Moore?
Yeah.
They just kicked the tires on him? Did they make an offer that was maybe $15 million a year, and then you pay $5 million a year over? Like, to me, I kind of look at, he may be average at best,
Yeah.
but that's not what you're paying for him. And it doesn't, I guess, in the end, it doesn't matter if everybody else plays their parts. But when's the last time the Tennessee Titans have gone to an offseason where every offensive lineman played their parts?
Yeah, I mean it's a similar position of, you need everything to work for it to really fire on all cylinders, and you need the conditions to be perfect, and we haven't seen a lot of evidence that the conditions are going to be perfect in recent years. I get it. He's probably one of the best available that still has some upside because he is still a younger player.
26, I think.
Yeah.
4
And
years.
If you subscribe to the idea that his last year was his best year, you would think that he's on an upward trajectory. He's going to continue to get better, to develop, and he can be your guy for the foreseeable future. But the commitment, duration of the contract wise, money wise, to me says like we need this guy to be better. And that to me kind of, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm that sold on him to make that kind of commitment as an organization.
Well, what this signing tells me, when you look at the position, the money,
Mhm.
and the quick response coming out of the building that, like, okay, J.C. Latham's playing right tackle,
Mhm.
it tells me they fucked up last year. Not in the way that you may think,
Yeah.
but they fucked up last year. And here's where I'm going to go with this, is that I look at it and I go, they drafted the best available tackle
Yeah.
because they were so piss poor in their evaluation of the current roster and free agency
Mm.
and the way they went and attacked free agency. They knew that J.C. Latham was the best tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And so they put him at the most important tackle position left.
Sure.
Even if they told us that they believed he could be a franchise left tackle, but at the end of the day, what they're telling us now is that they never really believe they hoped. They didn't believe.
Yeah.
They hoped he was the franchise left tackle. But they had to put him they had to put their best tackle at the most important tackle spot. And now they're saying, okay, we can move J.C. Latham back to where he really belongs,
Mm-hmm.
where we always thought he really belongs.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have Dan Moore, and maybe we overpay for Dan Moore. Maybe we wanted Jalen Moore, but he signed with the Chiefs really quick.
Yeah.
Now I look at it and I go, okay, we pay him $50 million over 2 years for average play. And by the time that we're doing an extension with J.C. Latham in his year 3, after his year 3, we can draft a left tackle.
Yeah.
In that draft.
Yeah.
So it's like it's roster building, right? So we're
Roster
looking at the
building.
strategy. We're looking at the roster building. And what does Dan Moore buy you? It's expensive, but he buys you more time.
Well, yeah, and we were sitting at the bar talking about this a little bit, and I brought up like the point that it kind of feels like they looked at it like this is a guy that, as long as he's not facing Myles Garrett or Trey Hendrickson every week, he's going to be an average starter in the league, which I concur with from the limited tape that I've watched. I haven't done a full
I
study.
do think that we both agree that, like, at best, he's an average offensive lineman.
But they look at it like, okay, if this thing is going to be a multi-year rebuild, this is a guy that still has some upside that could see us through the rebuild, and then we can kind of reassess. Like, maybe he does develop and he does become like this franchise left tackle that you've got to extend. But I think at the very least you could look at it and say this is a stabilizing force for the offensive line. I do think it's funny that they were talking, I don't know if it was at the Combine or the Senior Bowl or what, they were already kind of saying they would be open to moving JC back to the right side.
I mean, they were pretty
Very
obvious
quick.
with it.
Very quick after the Dan Moore Jr. signing to say he was signed to play
The
left
J.C.
tackle.
Latham at left tackle thing is dead.
Yeah, that's
Like,
kind
let's
of,
just all be honest with it.
so it
and that's
kind of,
fine. I still value. I mean, Joe Alt, who was drafted at 5th overall, was drafted to be the right tackle.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
I'm fine with drafting the right tackle. Right tackle is just as important as left tackle. But we all got to be honest. They kind of probably fucking lied to us last year that he could be a franchise. Maybe they were, like I said, maybe they were hoping.
Yeah. Mhm.
But at the end of the day, he was just the best tackle because they fucking failed in free agency.
Yeah, so I get the Dan Moore Jr. signing in that context when you think about the implications that it had for J.C. Latham. Maybe you level out the left tackle spot and you drastically improve the right tackle spot, and therefore your line's
Because
better
you
on the
already
bookends.
improved the right guard spot.
Yeah, so you've got on paper what looks like a vastly improved offensive line. So from a team building standpoint, you did what you had to do to get to that point, I feel like.
Donnie D goes, Zach, since you're big media now, when are you going to have some birdies inside the Titans building? I got some birdies in
How
there.
about that?
You just got to listen, I take some pauses and I say, I feel or I know.
Yeah.
You just got to kind of listen for the cues. I don't come right out and say it. I like to do a little tease here and there. So here's what I know. is that I would look at this situation with Dan Moore as this was not a plan A.
Okay.
And so, again, if you missed out on your plan A and then you see that there's a couple of other teams in on your plan B,
Creates a sense of urgency.
you may have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
And again, I get, like, people try to explain, like, you don't understand the market, and the market's this, the market's that. Like, guys, here's my thing, and I've been studying the salary cap for a very, very long time when everybody else was telling you that, Sam Darnold was going to get franchise tag, when Sam Darnold was going to get, $40 million, when Sam Darnold was going to get $50 million. I was pretty adamant through the whole way through. None of those three things were going to happen.
Well,
when I told everybody in February of last year, February 23rd, actually, on my wife's birthday last year.
How about that?
Which a terrible husband, by the way.
I was about to say, good husband. Good husband.
Is that when I told everybody that, Kevin Byard was going to have to take a pay cut, and then they ended up asking him, then they ended up doing it. Like, guys, I know how the salary cap works.
Harold
you
Landry.
guys can try to explain to me and try to make rationale. But at the end of the day, this really screams like a panic buy for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with a panic buy, but then why are we going to adjust the expectations? Because here's what everybody wants to do, right? In a year, here's what will happen. He's going to allow double-digit sacks by PFF standards because they already take out what's responsible for the quarterback, what's responsible for coverage. He's going to allow 10 sacks. Okay? And then everybody's going to say that he's an overpay.
Yeah.
Well, I already told you he's an overpay, so just come join me now. Just come join me now.
Yeah.
Because you are the worst offensive lineman out of your current starting five is the highest paid offensive lineman.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does not mean he can't get better or anything like that. I just, this is what everybody said about Kenneth Murray last year. Oh, well, he can get better. Hard Wilson, Frank Bush, and blah, 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 blah. Even though Frank Bush has never progressed the career of any linebacker. They've all gotten worse, actually, under Frank Bush. If you go watch the film and go look at the stats, they've all gotten worse. And I was right then.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, where's Kenneth Murray now, which we're about to get to? But, guys, people by year 4 tend to tell you who they are.
Yeah, I would agree.
I
with that
will say
wholeheartedly.
this, and this is why I asked Nick Faribault this, is that, what's your offensive line coach compared to Bill Callahan? And Bill Callahan's supposed to be the best. He's supposed to be good. I mean, Jeff Stoutland's the best, but, he's supposed to be good. Earn that money.
Yeah.
Both of you. Because really, Dan Moore's got to earn that money, too.
So I think the quiet part of this signing that I haven't heard a whole lot of people really talk about is that I think it affords this regime the chance to draft a tackle and develop him and not be pressured.
But it would have to be next year.
But they wouldn't have to. No, I think they could get him this year.
No, they got to get a guard this year to do that because they just signed Kevin Zeitler on a 1-year deal. So you got to have a guard next year.
Well, why couldn't you do both? You got 8 draft picks.
Well, you need 2 wide receivers currently.
Yeah.
You need a quarterback.
You're going to take the quarterback.
Okay, so you need a quarterback. You need 2 wide receivers.
Maybe.
So we're up to 3. No,
Maybe.
you need 2 wide receivers. We're not counting Van Jefferson for anything.
No, I'm just saying.
And we're not counting Bryce Oliver. You need 2 wide receivers.
I'm saying maybe you choose to eat shit on the receiver so that you can take the tackle because you like the tackle better than the receiver.
But one of those you need in year 1. The other one you need for later.
I mean, maybe.
Okay, so we're going to go quarterback.
We're going to go quarterback, edge rusher. I'm with you on those. You got to draft those high.
Okay, so we're going quarterback, 2 wide receivers. You're not going to talk me out of that. So you're going to have to accept 2 wide receivers. You're going to have to say.
I'm going to accept 1.
You still need 2 edge rushers.
They could still sign 1.
Well, they can, but we'll see when they do. So right now you still need 2 edge rushers. Do you need a safety because you only got Xavier Woods?
Yeah.
You need tight end.
Guard.
And you need a guard.
I'm at 5.
Well, that's because you skipped and didn't.
So you got 3 flex spots for another receiver, another edge rusher, another offensive
Maybe
tackle,
another quarterback.
tight end, a running back.
Yeah,
maybe.
you need a running back.
But what I'm saying is, like, you get into the different iterations of this thing. It's possible you could draft and develop a Jalen Travis on day 3, and maybe
this is what it's all about.
Maybe after
you
like
just want
year
your
2,
Jalen Travis propaganda out here.
you slide him into left tackle, and Dan Moore has done his job, and you did what you had to do to get him.
$50 million rich.
You gave him $50 million to hold down the fort for a year or 2.
Okay, so we talked about Dan Moore. Like, at the end of the day, you're just hoping that he's average.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're never going to get what you paid out of him. Like, let's be honest here.
Yeah, I mean,
So I know there's people in the chat like, well, there'll be 10 more tackles that are paid more than him by this time next year. Probably not. But because those guys are probably the guys already getting paid. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I look at it like this. You're never going to get that $50 million over 2 years. You're just never going to get it.
Yeah.
But at that point, hey, guess what? It's not our money. It's not the fans' money. It's not our listeners' money. It's not Jackson's money. You just got to fucking do it. And if that's what you feel like you got to do to buy yourselves time, that's fine. But this also feels like, like guys like Carson Vincent's probably dead to us.
I'm not giving up hope on that yet.
Yeah, I don't think you need to.
Carson Vincent could be that guy. Carson Vincent might not get drafted. Then they bring him to camp, and he's the next Ajuku Mania.
So let's go to this. Kevin Zeitler.
Love him.
On paper,
yeah.
Theoretically, this offensive line should be better than last year.
Yeah.
Last year, we said, theoretically, this offensive line should be better than last year. The year before that said, can't get worse.
Can't get any worse.
Can't get any worse. It didn't say it would get better, but you can't get any worse.
Yeah.
And it got worse.
Yeah.
So I'm just in wait-and-see mode. Like, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, and maybe that makes me too cynical. I don't give a shit. But, like, at this point, we just have to understand, like, the Tennessee Titans right now don't deserve your trust. They don't deserve your undying faith.
So that's why I say, like, they may choose to just eat shit instead of...
Cody goes, if Zach keeps cussing, I'm going to have to log off and stop supporting the Titans. Okay?
Wow, damn.
Damn.
Holding it against the Titans.
That ain't my fucking problem.
If they decide to just eat shit at wide receiver, like, I think that is the result of this roster being so far away.
Don't do this. Just lie to us and promise the offensive line will be better. Yeah. Well, what I say does not matter, by the way.
Listen, I told you before we started recording, before we went live, I'm like, I can be the positive voice tonight. And the positive voice is...
Okay, I'm going to let you be the positive voice.
Life is meaningless. We're all going to die one day. So let's just enjoy it.
Well, the sun's running out of hydrogen, so it really doesn't matter.
Yeah. So let's just hang out and chill. But I think this roster is so bad, and this is actually probably going to make people feel much worse, is that if they know in that building, like, bro, this is going to be like a 3-year thing, and they're like, there's an offensive tackle that we believe with the work and a couple of years, he can be the guy to start. Maybe we just leave Ty Felton for somebody else to draft, and we get that guy instead of forcing the wide receiver pick. So we're on different wavelengths with that philosophy, but I think the bigger picture is this is a really bad roster right now that is years away from being good.
Oh, that was extremely positive.
And we're on the same page with that.
Yeah.
And we're all going to die one day, so what does any of this matter?
Okay, I want to pause real quick. Ran Carthon.
Yeah.
We missed the boat on that, right?
I
think we can say that we were wrong in our assumption that Ran Carthon was going to be able to make the right moves and made the right moves. Because I will say this, because in hindsight, it's easy to say that, right?
Yeah.
At the time, we both agreed. So I would say that at the time, I think that, like, my analysis was probably a little bit more subjective than I wish it would have been.
Yeah.
And this time I'm going in with, like, no subjectivity. You got to fucking prove it to me.
Brother, I am with you. I'm with you 100%. I was in the exact same boat. New information comes to light.
Yeah.
As time passes, and I think you have to make the decision to either ignore it or acknowledge it. And I acknowledge that I was wrong about a lot of what I said based off of information that I got after he was fired. And once that picture was a little bit clearer, I kind of had to look in the mirror and say, boy, Stoney, you fucked that one
We
up.
missed that one. Missed that one by a wide margin.
Yeah.
That'll be the only time you'll ever hear us say that we were wrong. So now let's quickly move on.
Okay.
Let's talk about, so we talked about Kevin Zeitler. We talked about Dan Moore. Wide receiver.
Yeah.
So everybody's like they're building for Cam Ward. They're building this great offensive line. They're building this roster.
Jefferson.
So, yeah. So with Cam Ward, the plan is just to hand it off to Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. Because if you're rolling Van Jefferson and Calvin, and I know they're not, but you let NWI go because you guys were too stubborn for to pay him an extra $1 million over the course of his contract.
Mm-hmm.
And then immediately after that news breaks, 5 hours later, you announce Van Jefferson. Could we not have just kept Van Jefferson contract announcement on the fucking back burner? Why are you announcing that now? Because that's unfair to everybody, right?
Yeah.
We're mourning.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a dejected state.
It's a gut punch.
It's a gut punch. NWI is not going to be here. You let Ryan Stonehouse go, and then here you go, fucking announcing stupid ass. And I'm not calling him a stupid ass. I'm just calling the situation.
Yeah.
Van Jefferson.
It's a warm body.
But why? Does nobody in this PR department get it?
Maybe we pump the brakes on this one.
Yeah.
Just give it a day or two.
Yeah, give it a day or two. Let it fester.
Yeah.
Maybe if we can get things worked out with an Elijah Moore or Keenan Allen, we announce them at the same time.
Yeah.
They're a duo. They're a dynamic duo.
Well, maybe they're still working on those.
Well, yeah, but now it's too late. The haze left the barn or whatever it's called.
Yeah. The toothpaste is out of the tube.
Yeah, the haze up Jackson's ass. Whatever,
Yeah.
The
Haze-
gas has left the building.
I think the haze in the barn means something else.
Oh.
That means the work is done.
I'm just saying, why announce it at that point? At that point, you shouldn't do it.
I don't know. What are
Because are you really worried about Van Jefferson if you don't announce it? It's I'm going to go sign over here with the Arizona Cardinals. Well, go ahead. And I know Baron Browning will love it because he thinks that he's dating the hottest girl at the homecoming dance.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Well, he said something well, when you're dating a 10, why would you ever let it go?
That's
Talk
right.
about
That's
re-signing.
what it was.
I'm
Yeah.
well, he must be fucking blind.
Yeah. Well,
great for him if he's
he might
blind.
be. He might be speaking literally though, out in Arizona, like
There's
Arizona
the 10.
State. There's the reputation.
Yeah.
They have quite the talent out there, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What are the Pittsburgh people saying about Van Jefferson? Because I have not heard one positive thing about him. I haven't watched his tape, and I don't know.
So that
how long.
morning, we had Nick Fairball on yesterday.
Yeah.
And then so that morning, Van Jefferson was signed, and I went in on Van Jefferson a little bit. He's like, "Oh no, Van Jefferson's a good dude." But he's not good. like that's the thing. He's a nice guy, and I've
hometown guy.
Yeah, I heard TD say today that he's a good, because Sean Jefferson's dad and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And all this stuff is he's one of the best route runners in the league.
I
don't know, put up or shut up. That's just kind of where I'm at with some of these players in these.
We're gonna find out.
We're gonna find out pretty quick.
Find out.
You know what my favorite narrative is about this free agency thing is people say well, they have 6 or 5 GMs in the building. They know more than you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've all been fired.
We've never
Mike
been
Bergonzi.
fired.
I've never been fired.
Yeah, we've never been fired.
Mike Bergonzi's the only one that's not been fired.
Yeah.
They've all been fired for a reason. Let me tell you something. You go look at Reggie McKenzie's and you go look at Dave
Raiders
Ziegler's drafts.
Yeah.
I will put my mock drafts I will put my Titans drafts, because I always do a Titans draft, final draft, about what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
Up against them any day of the fucking week, I will beat them every time.
Yeah. We need to make that happen. Maybe there's
We
some charity, something we could do. We could get in the works.
But let's settle down here. That they got 6, GMs here. I mean, they do a title, but
we're just stupid fanboy podcasters. We don't know anything.
I think we know more than what people say. Okay. So his yards per route run, atrocious.
Yeah.
He hasn't been over one, as far as 1 yard per route run since 2021. Guys, we have to stop clinging to stuff that happened 4 or 5 years ago. The last 2 years have been atrocious for Van Jefferson.
Yeah. I haven't watched any of his tape yet from the last couple of years, but I was looking at his game logs earlier, trying to plan like which games I'm going to watch. And I'm like, okay, where's the yardage? I think his most yardage of the season was 62 yards in a game against the Giants.
Ed Henry goes, trade one of our extra fifths or sixths for Alan Lazard. We don't need more shit. Like, come on, Ed.
Yeah.
Aim higher. That is my offseason philosophy. That is my offseason advice. Aim higher.
But
if Alan Lazard is the best you can fucking do, you're in shit's creek, and it's not going to help Cam Ward. I don't care how good the offensive line is if nobody can get open.
Yeah.
If nobody can run off script. It's not just about getting open.
Yeah.
With Cam Ward, you have to be able to be off script. I'm sorry, but like, you have to find, it's going to have to be 2 wide receivers in draft.
I'm going to add a caveat to that because I'm going to stick with this theme that they might just like eat shit for a year.
Yeah.
Aim higher.
He's just trying to live his life as a wide receiver.
Aim higher and or accept inevitable disappointment.
Yeah. But I don't think fans want to do that. Listen, he signed a contract up to $2.5 million, which is an appropriate contract for Van Jefferson.
Yeah.
The money's, because you know what that says? He can get cut at any time.
Yeah.
But why are you signing a guy that can get cut at any time?
Because you just need somebody there because you're not going to double dip at wide receiver in the draft.
They're going to have to. Because, again, I will say this. Like I said last year, like when I told Braden on 440 Sports, I've told people on the F words, I've told people on the radio, you cannot game plan that Van Jefferson exists. I said this about Traylon Burks last year. Traylon Burks does not exist when you're building your draft board.
It doesn't impact the plan.
It does not impact the plan.
Yeah.
Van Jefferson does not impact the plan.
Yeah.
For me, again, it's just about the timing. It's not about that you signed a wide receiver 4 or 5 to a $2 million contract. I don't care. I just do not factor Van Jefferson into anything that Tennessee Titans should be doing. If he ends up being wide receiver 2 because they refuse to sign somebody else and or double dip, which is what they should do in the draft, they're morons.
Yeah.
Just like if they would have signed Mason Rudolph, they would have been morons. And I would have no sympathy when they get fired. And if they walk into this thing thinking that Van Jefferson could be wide receiver 2, they're morons, and I would have no sympathy when they get fired because they deserve to get fired for thinking that way.
Unless they're just like, we're going to suck for 4 years.
Yeah.
Which I just like.
Well, that's fine. They're still going to get fired because they thought that way.
Yeah, like you can't. I don't know, man. I don't know.
There's just no like. I'm not mad at Van Jefferson signing. I'm mad at the way that they're addressing the wide receiver position.
Yeah.
And listen, Diami Brown wasn't a solution.
I thought he was better than Van Jefferson.
I would think I would lean Van Jefferson.
No, really?
Yeah, well, Diami Brown's only got – this is the first year with 300-plus yards receiving, so good for him. Out of 4 years, at least Van Jefferson's done that every year.
Touche from a production standpoint.
Yeah, from him, actually being good standpoint. Josh Palmer, he's all right, but he's overpaid. And, because according to PK.com, those were the 3 guys that were on his radar, and I'm sure he got his list from someone inside the building that, maybe like someone like a Brad Sinker, I would say. So, I look at it and I go, okay, they didn't get Diami Brown. They didn't get Josh Palmer. And so the only wide receiver left on PK's list just happened to be Van Jefferson. And, they got Van Jefferson. Sometimes the moves you don't make can win you free agency.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know. I have a hard time thinking that he's going to fix anything. Let's go to
Cody Barton.
Yeah, let's go to Cody Barton.
Yeah.
Cody Barton, a little angry on the first day. Felt
Yeah.
like a panic move.
Mhm.
But you brought up something in a text today,
Yeah.
and I want you to lay it out for the people.
So we've been talking about it for a couple of days. I know you got into some Cody Barton tape. I finally got around to watching some Cody Barton tape. Stylistically, I think there's a lot to like about Cody Barton. I'm kind of stoked about the signing now, but I reframed the signing when I thought about, after watching the tape, I'm like, why would they pivot from Dre Greenlaw to Cody Barton? Because that's what we've been thinking of it as all week, was like they lost out on Dre Greenlaw because they were reported to have interest there, and he chose somewhere else. He chose Denver, right? I think he went to the Broncos. I can't remember.
No, he went from Seattle to somewhere, then to Denver.
No, Dre Greenlaw chose the Broncos over the Titans.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I had been thinking about it as like, oh, well, they lost out on Dre Greenlaw, so they pivoted to Cody Barton. But after I watched his tape, I'm like, man, he's a really different player from Dre Greenlaw. And then I thought they shipped Kenneth Murray off to Dallas.
Which we always kind of thought that was a possibility, that there was at least going to be no Kenneth Murray in 2025.
Oh, dude, I crushed it on the hot read this week. Not only did I say my spidey sense is tingling a little bit that they haven't re-signed NWI yet, but I also said, are we sure Kenneth Murray is safe on this roster? And then boom, right after that. But back to Cody Barton. I was looking at it like they lost out on Dre Greenlaw, so they pivoted to Cody Barton. But when I watched Barton's tape, and I've watched Greenlaw and Fred Warner for a while now because they're awesome to watch, man. Fred Warner is one of my favorite players in the game. And stylistically, they're pretty different linebackers. And it occurred to me, well, they didn't say publicly that they pivoted from one to the other. So what if they were actually trying to sign both Barton and Greenlaw? And that kind of was the light bulb going off moment for me that kind of painted it in a different light. It was like, okay, so Cody Barton was never meant to be the coverage linebacker of this duo. He could do what he does best. And thinking about it in those terms, I was kind of like, shit, that would have been a really solid setup between those two. So I don't know. I was just spitballing there, just thinking about it.
Yeah, I've come around the Cody Barton thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of talked about today is like, Cody Barton got signed, thought it was too expensive, watched the film, and I'm like, okay, well, it's still too expensive, but I feel good about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Total opposite from Kenneth Murray is like where Kenneth Murray got signed, way too expensive is my feeling.
We had to cope ourselves into that one, too.
Well, I don't even think we ever got around to it.
Yeah, you're right. We didn't.
And then, I mean, Titans fans, as soon as you're signed, cope
Boom.
is happening.
Yeah.
And got trashed for trashing him. And I watched the film, and I did not feel any better about it.
When our argument was basically like, we got to hope Denard Wilson has a plan with this guy, it's not typically good.
Which, who knew that hoping Denard Wilson had a plan would be such a pretty distinct line in the sand of week to week?
Yeah.
Because you go back and think about that, the Redskins game, Commanders game.
Oh, boy, we're live.
Yeah, we're live. Commanders game followed by the Jacksonville Jaguars game where the same run schemes and same run fits were used against the Tennessee Titans defense.
Yeah.
And then you think about the Green Bay game.
That was a rough one.
And I look at it and I go, listen, I know that there maybe the scheme is fine,
Mm-hmm.
but the players aren't executing. Totally
Mhm.
understand that could be an issue. And I think that's what is the common theme besides durability is that you got smart football players in here now.
Mm-hmm.
That's also a lack of understanding of what your players are.
Yeah.
So,
And there was a lot of, with Kenneth Murray last year, there was a lot of tape out there that I was just like, what are we doing with this guy?
okay, so let me ask you a question. I think this is good philosophy, and this kind of fits in with the Kenneth Murray, Cody Barton kind of thing. Joe Blacko brings up a good point. Rand listened to the coaches too much.
Mm.
So do we think that this staff is not listening to the coaches, but they're still getting players that make sense? Or do we think that last year maybe listened to the coaches, but didn't understand the coaches? Because there are people that listen to our show.
Yeah.
The Lone Phoenix, who's actually here right now, just this, ironically enough, he just popped up in the chat. He listens to Cover 2, but he doesn't understand a lick of the shit that we say on there because he has no active listening skills. So, like, maybe Rand Carthon's like the Lone Phoenix. He doesn't understand what's being said. He just says, yes, I understand, but he actually doesn't.
Yeah. I don't have any birdies inside the building. I don't have a lot of insight.
No sparrows.
No sparrows. No sparrows for me. I don't know that I have enough insight to have an opinion on that question, to be transparent.
Well, I just wonder and I really wasn't looking for an answer, but it is something to float out there, is like these free agent signings are drastically different than the free agency signings last year.
So is that a question
Zach, please stop cursing. My kids are watching.
Oh.
This is my new favorite running gag in the thing. And I know he's joking, so I love it. But, like, again, I kind of go back to the thing of in football, there's a bunch of variables. So what's the one constant? Well, the one constant in this particular situation is the staff.
Yeah.
The variable is the GM. So at that point, wouldn't you say that maybe the process between coach to GM to action, there is a flaw there from last year to this year that we weren't privy to?
I think that is a logical conclusion to draw that fits together nicely.
Yeah. I mean, that's just how I look. So going back to, we were talking about Kenneth Murray. I got to talk to my Cowboys, one of my best friends, best man at my first wedding. He couldn't make it to the second wedding. Best man at my first wedding. Kyle Eaton, who's out in Memphis, longtime Cowboys fan. I relished to be able to tell him everything that's wrong with Kenneth Murray.
Okay.
And he said, oh, this just sounds like every other typical Cowboys player that they have signed. So that was really fun. Cody Barton, I'm willing to give a shot.
I'm kind of in on it.
I know. It's just like white inside linebackers. I mean, we talked about a couple of years ago, we had Jack, Chance. We had Garrett. We had all these, I call them the cracker backers. And, now we just got a guy named Cody.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm okay with it. I don't like it, but I understand the free agency. Sometimes you got to overpay. I like after watching the film, I like Cody Barton more than Dan Moore.
Oh, yeah, I do too.
So we talked about Kevin Zeitler.
To be clear, can I just say it for all the people watching?
You can. Right here.
Right there. I don't hate Dan Moore Jr. I don't fault Dan Moore Jr. Dan Moore Jr. has some good tape, but it's the signing, the expectations that come with it that make me a little nervous. That's all.
There you go. That's a little confessional.
Confessional, yeah.
Are you upset that you don't get 5 minutes to talk about Nick Bolton today?
Devastated. Absolutely crushed. You know that scene at the end of Da Vinci Code where the whatever the priest is, where he's taking the cat of nine tails and whipping his back, and that's what I did in my house that night. The night that it was announced.
But it was with Bucky. You just grabbed Bucky by the tail and you just
his teeth went into my back. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Xavier Woods,
sturdy guy.
A sturdy guy. I mean, it's not a sexy signing.
Yeah.
But it's a good signing.
It's a good signing.
I know everybody's been like, oh, you guys shit on every signing, blah, blah, blah. I like the Xavier Woods signing. I've come around the Cody Barton signing. I like the Xavier Woods signing. I like Sebastian Joseph Day. I don't want to spend too much time on Xavier Woods because, I mean, there's not really much to say because he's just so durable.
Yeah.
But, like, you still got to find a safety of the future, and that's kind of what these one-year contracts buy you, right?
They signed one, Mike Brown.
So this is what these one-year contracts buy you, right? Is like the opportunity to buy yourself time to find the long-term solution.
Yes.
And I like Mike Brown, but
well, it's
you can't you can't hesitate after you got a flag to knock someone's ass off.
Yeah,
And,
I felt
you know,
bad. I felt bad for him.
I
over that.
don't because it's football and you just got to fucking do it.
That's right. That's right. Pull your big girl panties up
Yeah.
and deal with it, or whatever the saying is. Yeah, I think like they're plugging holes with starter caliber players, and that affords them the time to find the players of the future. And I think it also provides them a little bit of liquidity in the draft. They can be a little fluid and not draft for need necessarily.
Okay, so that takes us to Draymond Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you probably haven't had a lot of time
Mm-mm.
to break down Draymond Jones. I look at it like this. If you can get back to where he's almost like a 50-50 split between edge and defensive line. So what I mean by like guys that stand up, play the edge position, and guys that have their hand in the dirt. Because I know there's defensive end, there's left end, right end, outside, deep defensive tackle, 3 tech and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I look at the guys, I kind of go like, if you're a guy that puts his hand in the dirt but can also play coverage and can also play off the ball, away from the line of scrimmage, kind of standing up, I kind of look at it like a defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Draymond Jones, who last year playing out of position, was still tied for 45 pressures, which have been a team high for the Tennessee Titans with Jeffrey Simmons' 45 pressures, is a guy that I look at as in a base defense, 3-4 defense.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have his hands in the dirt next to Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat, all on that defensive line.
Yeah.
And then when maybe they go into a pass coverage situation or an obvious passing down, he's either off the field or he goes out to edge, and here comes Sebastian Joseph Day with those other 2 guys that we just mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That's a great summary.
That to me is like, I guess I just fucking nailed it.
I mean, you did.
But that's what it feels like to me, is like, this is a guy that is obviously working for, sometimes these 1-year contracts are by player choice because they want to hit the market again.
Yeah.
He was just drafted in 2019. He's still under 30 years old. He's going to have a chance to be under 30 years old to actually get another opportunity at a contract.
Yeah.
And so I look at it as like, I wish I would have signed him to a little bit longer term.
I do too.
But I understand maybe you had to sacrifice the term to get the player.
Yeah, for sure. I like the signing. I think this is great. I mean, they're obviously building out the trenches, right? And that's what we've talked about a lot, like building from the inside out. They re-signed Sebastian Joseph Day. They bring in Draymond Jones, added to Tavondre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons. They brought back Keandre Coburn, too. Like, this is a pretty thick stable of guys. I don't think it keeps them from drafting a guy or adding a couple more as undrafted free agents. Like, this is starting to look like a pretty solid group that probably, I don't know, you think going to be the strength of the team?
Well, I mean, look at the Philadelphia Eagles, right? I mean, they went and said they studied the roster construction and the philosophy of all these other teams.
Yeah.
How many defensive linemen does Philadelphia rotate in and out that
18,
plays? I mean,
at
like,
least.
it feels like
18 at least.
I mean, now you got Milton Williams getting over $100 million contract off one spectacular year.
Yeah, that's a
because
crazy contract.
I would bet that anybody that didn't go to Louisiana Tech didn't really know that Milton Williams before this year.
Yeah.
And he's been around for 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, they took like,
but that's what they do. They got Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, Fletcher Cox. Like they have all these guys that rotate in and out, and as soon as one guy leaves, they have like 13 that will step up into a spot.
They took Thomas Booker off the scrap heap after the Houston Texans just cast him aside.
Yeah.
And he's playing meaningful snaps too.
Right. So that's my point, is that like when you look at the situation, is like, well, how do you play all these players? Well, you keep them all fresh, right? Like that's what the New York Giants tend to do, or like that's what the Green Bay Packers. No, hold on. The New York Giants didn't do that. Green Bay Packers did that to the New York Giants because the Green Bay Packers stayed on the field a lot, and the New York Giants don't have a deep defensive line rotation, so they all got tired.
Yeah.
Think to the Commanders game.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting their shit kicked in the run game, but they couldn't get off the field.
Yep. Yep.
And they didn't have anybody to substitute, right?
Yep.
At least the quality of substitutions were not great.
Yeah.
Now you have a deeper defensive line rotation with some edge flexibility, right? Like, as I hate shitting on Red Carthon because I fucking invested a lot in Red Carthon, it feels like, personally.
There's a lot of us glazing Rand Carthon in the backlog.
But I look at it and I go, was talking to Blaine, and he was just like, the light. You can tell when I hit a point that's correct because you see the light bulb come off. You can only really maybe even see it just like when you're in person. But I'm talking about Danico Autry, and I'm talking about, like, it feels like the Tennessee Titans really underappreciated the versatility of Danico Autry. And last year, they had nobody that could truly play both.
No, they didn't.
And now they got a guy that could play both. And I think that when you don't have a guy that could play both, you just don't have enough players. You have to have at least one hybrid player, and they fucked that up last year.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. And again, it's like, not to say that Draymond Jones is going to be Danico Autry, because Danico Autry was a damn good player for this team.
He's not gonna have anywhere near the production.
But stylistically,
yeah,
it looks a lot like Danico Autry, and that was my first thought. Again, haven't put on any Draymond Jones tape just yet, but just watching a little bit of gameplay and stuff like that, it's like, oh, that's what this is. This is a my bad. Like, we got to get this piece of the puzzle set.
I don't know if there's any other free agents that we need to talk about. We
didn't talk about Kevin Zeitler.
Yeah, we did.
Did we?
Yeah.
I got all these notes on Kevin Zeitler.
Well, here, listen, since you couldn't have 5 minutes on Nick Bolton, tell us what you got on Kevin Zeitler.
I don't know if you guys can see this on the camera. I spilt fucking whiskey all over my notebook when I was making these notes for RKW, my appearance on there Sunday night for Monday morning. Kevin Zeitler, menacing run blocker. Good hands, gets him inside, gets him right on those shoulders, just buries into a guy's chest. Good feet, powerful feet, drives them, gets his pads down, drives with leverage. This guy looks like he's a pro or something. It's like he's been doing this for a minute. Low set, good natural center of gravity.
Such a good built analysis right there. He looks like he's been doing this for a while.
Just the way he's built is just like low to the ground. He's hard to fucking move.
Yeah.
Seasoned guy like this. I'm full steam ahead.
I forgot to ask Blaine this, but, talking about, good bases, thick bases, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
A.J. Dillon with Saquon Barkley, thick thigh committee.
Oh, buddy. Man. Yeah, the Kevin Zeitler signing.
It was good.
I'm pumped.
So, at this point, you have your offensive line set. Your starting five set. You still got to make some work on the depth. You can't go in with Blake Hance as your main. You can't. I'm sorry, you cannot. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. We're aiming higher.
They've got Bill Callahan, Zach.
Oh, wow. Well, they had Bill Callahan for last year, and that proved out to be nothing.
Maybe Jalen Duncan kicks inside the guard.
Okay, we're not doing that. We're aiming higher.
Okay.
I like Jalen Duncan.
Okay.
But we're aiming higher. Okay.
We're going to draft Jalen Travis.
We got Cam Ward. We got 2 wide receivers that are going to be drafted to start with Calvin Ridley, because Jaquan Jackson's not going to make the team.
Are we going to name them, or are we just saying 2?
We're just saying 2.
Okay.
I mean, I'm still of the effect of Ty Felton should be on this team in some form or another, because they're not going to be able to draft till, the 4th round of wide receiver more likely.
Jalen Lane sneaky for the
like
slot role
Jalen
too.
Lane. Tight end. Just real quick. No movement on tight ends. Still right now the only tight ends on the roster, David Martin Robinson and Chigakonkwo and Josh Wiley, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, they said Thomas Odukoya and David Martin Robinson were developmental players last year.
Yeah.
So does that mean they're going to stick it out with Chig and Wiley and develop one of those guys to be the 3rd tight end?
Maybe. We'll see.
It's a good tight end class to dip into, though.
I don't hate Kyle Williams. I like Kyle Williams.
Kyle Williams, interesting because
It's interesting.
I
Here's
tell
the
you,
thing. Here's the thing about the Kyle Williams thing, though. It's already going to be unbearable when Cam Ward gets drafted because he's from Washington State.
mm-hmm,
We can't have Kyle Williams, too.
just run it all Cougs.
Right? I mean, Jackson, we can't have Go Cougs every morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because Kayla is just
Mhm.
she's, all Washington State. Like, I'm all Memphis, but, like, we can't do that.
Kyle Williams, the tricky thing for me was I was unfamiliar with his game when he was announced for the Senior Bowl, and he was a late ad for the Senior Bowl too, mind you. Watching the practices, I was sitting up in the stands with Braden, and we're watching one-on-one reps, and Kyle Williams goes up there and, he's trying all what they call it the TikTok stuff, where it's like he's running TikTok routes out there. He's taking like 8 steps before he gets into his release.
Just real quick, Joe Blacko says, all Cougs just like my Tinder matches.
Hey, my man. Yeah. I'm a man of a similar demographic myself. So that's back in my day, the moms love me. I don't know. Anyway, what were we talking about? Kyle Williams. I was sitting up in the stands with Braden, and we were watching it, and we both looked at each other and we're like, that's not a fast guy at all. And we kind of wrote him off. And then you hear people talk about Kyle Williams, and they're like, the first thing they say is like, oh, the speed. He's a speedy guy. I'm like, I didn't really see that in person. So tape study withstanding, I got to dig
Drew
into
from
him.
Iron City Film, at Iron City Film, he says, blistering long speed, lethal stop ability, quick separator, torches press man. He's a top 50 player for me. I'm in love.
That's
move him to the top of the list. Let's get some Kyle Williams.
I'm not saying
because eventually,
mm-hmm.
Kayla, because you go on Ramon Kayla Will every morning, every Monday morning, 7:20 a.m. Oh, she's gonna ask you, and she may ask you. There's probably other Washington State players in the draft that we don't even know about. She'll probably ask you.
Yeah,
so you got to get on that.
Yeah, I do. You're right. Maybe I'll do that tonight.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying there's a disconnect from what I saw from the workouts in person and what everybody says this prospect is, and I'm just trying to remain objective here.
I could see a little bit of like a thicker Tez Johnson, like if you're trying to compare him to someone that we saw at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
But I would say that the Senior Bowl tape left a lot to be desired, so I do agree that we probably got to like actually go to the game tape.
Yeah.
Okay, so punter's gone. Don't really give a shit. If you want to call me at 7:32 in the morning like my dad did, probably won't answer after anywhere. Don't care. Ryan Stonehouse is gone. We're not. I see the arms. We're not talking about punters.
I'm just gonna say, I'm happy to be the last Stoney standing in this market.
That is true. Draymond Jones, Xavier Woods. Did we miss anybody?
Sebastian Joseph Day. We're happy about that.
Yeah.
Keandre Coburn, Otis Reese.
Yeah, Otis Reese. I'm happy with Otis Reese.
Yeah, me too. I guess that's it.
Okay, did any news break while we were on the air?
Excuse me. I've been coughing for like 2 fucking months. Since the Senior Bowl.
Will Levis is hard at work at the QB Summit.
Is that a real breaking news thing, or are you just making that up?
No, they posted a video of him dunking a basketball.
Hell yeah.
Who did?
The QB Summit. It made me laugh.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that is funny.
I was going to say, if the Titans did, they all need to be fired.
Will Levis reposted it.
Well,
he's working on his dunking skills.
Oh, apparently there's a wasp on the door, so I need to get out of here. And my wife's saying, "Ugh, there's a wasp on the door. What time do you think you'll be home?" Like, why is there? Go to bed, wasp.
Yeah, my wife doesn't give a shit where I'm at. She's just like, he's out of the house for a little bit.
All right, let's close this up.
Yeah. What else
Cam
do you want
Ward?
to talk about?
Cam Ward,
It's certainly seeming that way.
will you sigh and you have this hesitation?
Yeah, man, I don't know. Like,
just get on board the Cam Ward train. Don't fight it at this point.
I'm gonna say it.
Don't fight it.
This is I still have reservations about the player, the tape. That's all. I still think
Yeah.
he would be a good candidate to sit for a little bit.
Well, I mean, they did sign Brandon Allen.
That's
so,
true. That's true. So he's
Could
got
you
at least
imagine
2
Brandon
years.
Allen week 1 coming out to the stands, announces starting. And now your quarterback of the Tennessee Titans, Brandon Allen.
Yeah, that would be places going crazy, fireworks going off. Yeah. I don't
Then
know. Maybe
he goes for 199 and 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions.
what if Brandon Allen is the next Geno Smith and we've just missed it this whole
We
time?
just missed it the whole time.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
He's technically I think would be younger.
He is younger.
Yeah,
'cause
than Geno Smith
was,
when Geno Smith hit the Geno Smith.
Geno Smith was 2013, right?
Yeah. So he would be,
Hey.
You may be onto something.
There we go. You heard it here first.
You heard it
folks.
here first. Jackson, grade the show.
A+ Yap Fest, boys.
There we
The free agency talk was overwhelming.
That's such a good description.
Thank you,
It
Jackson.
was very
Thank you for that.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
Made my brain fried.
Mhm.
All right, that will do it for us here on Football and the F Words. I'm Zach Lyons. You can follow me on Twitter at the Zach Lyons. See Stoney Keeley. You can follow him on Twitter at Stoney Keeley.
Mhm.
This has been Football and the F Words, and you have just been effed.